Researchers at Rush University in Chicago followed 960 older adults for nearly 5 years. Average age 81. None of them had dementia when the study began. Every year, researchers tested their memory and thinking skills. Every year, the participants reported what they had eaten. At the end of the study, researchers split the group into 5 categories based on one single variable: how much leafy green vegetables they ate. The people in the highest group were eating about 1 serving a day, roughly a cup of spinach or a salad or some cooked kale. Nothing extreme, nothing complicated. The people in the lowest group were eating almost none. When researchers compared the rate of cognitive decline between the two groups, the difference was not small. The people eating 1 serving of leafy greens a day had a rate of mental decline equivalent to being 11 years younger than the people who rarely ate them. 11 years. From 1 cup of greens a day. If you are over 60, you have probably thought about your memory more in the last few years than you ever did before. Maybe you walk into a room and forget why. Maybe a name sits right on the tip of your tongue and won't come. Maybe you've quietly wondered whether this is normal aging or something more. Almost everything you've heard about protecting your brain focuses on what to avoid: sugar, alcohol, inactivity. This video is different. By the end, you are going to understand the research behind the single food group most strongly linked to slower cognitive decline, the diet built specifically around brain protection that is now being tested in a major clinical trial, and the practical, affordable way to start using this information, starting with your next grocery trip. Let's go back to that Rush University study, because the details matter. The research was led by Dr. Martha Claire Morris, a nutritional epidemiologist, and published in the medical journal Neurology. Researchers tracked the participants across 5 domains of cognitive function: memory, working memory, language, visual spatial ability, and processing speed. And critically, the researchers adjusted for other factors that could explain the result: education, physical activity, smoking, cardiovascular health, and overall diet quality. The leafy greens connection held up. So why would a vegetable have this kind of effect on the brain? Leafy greens are unusually rich in specific nutrients: vitamin K, lutein, folate, and beta-carotene, along with flavonoid compounds that have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. Your brain is one of the most metabolically active organs in your body. It uses an enormous amount of oxygen and energy relative to its size, which also makes it particularly vulnerable to oxidative stress, essentially, cellular wear and tear that builds up over time. The nutrients concentrated in leafy greens appear to help protect brain tissue against exactly that kind of cellular damage. This is not a single magic compound. It is the combination working together that the research points to. That single finding did not stay isolated in one study. It became the foundation for something much bigger, and it is now being tested in one of the most rigorous trials in the history of nutrition science. Here is what they built and what they found. Researchers at Rush and Harvard developed a way of eating specifically for brain health, called the MIND diet. MIND stands for Mediterranean-Intervention for Neurodegenerative Delay. It combines elements of the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet, but with specific emphasis on the food groups the brain research pointed to most strongly: green leafy vegetables and berries. In 2023, researchers published the results of a randomized controlled trial testing the MIND diet directly. in the New England Journal of Medicine, one of the most respected medical journals in the world. And a systematic review covering studies from 2015 through 2024 found a consistent positive association between mind diet adherence and cognitive function in older adults, with the protective effect of leafy greens and berries appearing again and again across the research. This is not a fad. This is not a single headline. This is a body of research built over more than a decade, converging on the same small set of foods. Before I show you exactly how to use this, I want to be honest about what this research can and cannot tell us. This is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical care. Most of this evidence comes from long term observational studies, which show a strong and consistent association but cannot prove cause and effect in the same way a drug trial can. The ongoing randomized trials are helping to close that gap. If you have memory concerns that feel different from normal aging sudden changes, getting lost in familiar places, real difficulty with daily tasks, please talk to your doctor. This video is about prevention and brain health, not a substitute for medical evaluation. With that said, here is exactly how to use this information starting today. The research point that matters most for you, practically, is this. You do not need an elaborate restrictive diet to get this benefit. The protective effect in the Rush study appeared at roughly 1 serving of leafy greens per day, 1 cup of raw greens, or half a cup cooked. That is a side salad with lunch. That is a handful of spinach wilted into eggs at breakfast. That is kale or collards alongside dinner a few times a week, building toward daily. Spinach, kale, collard greens, and romaine or other leaf lettuces were the specific vegetables studied. Iceberg lettuce, while technically a leafy green, carries far less of these protective nutrients than darker varieties. So when you're choosing, darker and more colorful generally means more of what the research is pointing to. If the taste or texture of greens has never appealed to you, start small. A handful blended into a morning smoothie with fruit disguises the flavor almost completely while delivering the same nutrients. The second food group the Mind Diet research emphasizes most strongly is berries, specifically blueberries and strawberries. Berries are exceptionally rich in flavonoid compounds called anthocyanins, which give them their deep color and which research has linked to antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects relevant to brain health. The Mind Diet research specifically recommends berries at least twice a week, with researchers noting that the relationship between berry intake and slower cognitive decline has been observed across multiple long-term studies. Frozen berries carry essentially the same nutritional value as fresh and are often more affordable and available year-round, an easy way to keep this consistent regardless of season or budget. A half cup of blueberries on oatmeal, a handful of strawberries as an afternoon snack, frozen berries blended into the same smoothie as your greens. Twice a week, minimum, is the target the research supports. The Mind Diet includes other components worth knowing, even though greens and berries carry the strongest individual evidence. Nuts, several times a week, a small handful of walnuts or almonds. Olive oil as your primary cooking fat in place of butter. Fish, at least once a week, salmon, sardines, or other fatty fish are rich in omega-3 fatty acids researchers associate with brain health. Beans and legumes several times a week. And on the other side, the diet recommends limiting, not eliminating, limiting red meat, butter, cheese, pastries and sweets, and fried or fast food. You do not need to adopt all of this perfectly starting today to benefit. Research on diet adherence generally shows that partial, consistent change produces real benefit. It does not need to be all or nothing. If all you take from this video is one daily serving of leafy greens and berries twice a week, you are already aligning with the two elements of this research with the strongest individual evidence behind them. Here is the one sentence that matters most from this video. A major study following nearly 1,000 older adults for years found that eating just one serving of leafy greens a day was associated with a rate of cognitive decline equivalent to being 11 years younger, and that finding has since shaped an entire diet now being studied in major clinical trials for brain health. The action is simple. One serving of leafy greens, daily spinach, kale, collards, or dark lettuce. Berries at least twice a week, fresh or frozen, blueberries or strawberries. Build from there at your own pace with nuts, olive oil, fish, and beans. Most people think protecting their brain after 60 means a long list of things to give up. The truth, based on the strongest research available, is mostly about what you add. 1 cup of greens, a handful of berries, small, repeatable, affordable, not a transformation. A habit. That is what this channel is here for every week. Not fear, just the specific truth your doctor didn't have time to explain. If this helped you today, subscribe. Every week I bring you one thing that makes your good health decisions even better. Before you go, we just talked about what protects your brain and how protecting it is mostly about what you add. Next week, we're going back to watching for something. Because while protecting your memory is about adding the right things in, protecting your sleep means catching one common habit before it quietly costs you a full night's rest. There is a specific, well-documented connection between certain foods and how well or how poorly you sleep through the night. And one of the biggest offenders is something most people eat specifically because they think it helps them relax in the evening. It does the opposite. That is next week. Don't miss it.